Chapter 70. A Genius in 1 Second. Remember love. SpeakNet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. The Limestone Water Village Hotel was not a standalone building. Even though it was 454 meters tall and had 108 floors, it could only exist as a secondary building to the entire Cloud City Water Village complex. Moreover, it was the one with the lowest height. There were a total of 6 buildings similar to the Limestone Water Village Hotel. They were distributed in a ring shape, rising one after the other. They surrounded the 1179-meter-tall main building of Cloud City, forming what could be called a first-rate complex of buildings in the entire world. Luo Nan saw a structural map that included the entirety of the Limestone Water Village Hotel as well as a few passageways that led to the low-level business center. The mesh perspective map looked like a beehive, but it was 1,000 times more complex. The blue triangular flags representing the Wilderness Explorers Society were scattered within. It was as if they were rushing through a maze. Luo Nan blurted out when he saw this scene, "There are too few people." The 108-floor Limestone Water Village Hotel was the most affordable and friendly building within the Cloud City Water Village complex. Naturally, its popularity was high. It was the weekend, and it was the peak of the night. There were at least a dozen banquets lined up. Adding in the tourists and travelers, 20 to 30,000 people wasn't too much. However, there were no more than 15 aptitude users scattered on each floor. On average, one person had to take care of 7 or 8 floors. In reality, there were a few groups of people, including the 2 of them in the elevator right now. In terms of coverage, it was simply riddled with holes. Luo Nan had always heard about operations and whatnot. He thought that the society would be mobilizing in large numbers in order to hunt and kill the human-faced arachnid, laying down an inescapable net. But when he saw this scene, he felt a bit embarrassed. At this time, he remembered a small detail. "I remember you brought 4 people with you, Sister He." Luo Nan was too embarrassed to call her secretary He, so he learned from Chen Wei Kan. "That's the one with the 4 of them together." Luo Nan was already completely convinced. Wasn't chasing after the human-faced arachnid like finding a needle in a haystack with this kind of configuration? He Yuan suddenly asked him at this time, "Can we switch to conference mode?" Luo Nan believed that she had other plans, so he naturally had no reason to refuse. Soon, a notification flashed on his retina interface. The wartime encrypted communications had entered conference mode. A row of avatars appeared on the interface. All 15 members of the association in the Limestone Water Village pub were online. Zhang Yingying's squirrel was among them. But contrary to his expectations, He Yuan's following words were clearly a response to his question. The number of people isn't a crucial factor. After all, the hidden resources under the control of the society are quite considerable. Moreover, 3 to 5 awakened working together is more than enough to surround and kill a human-faced arachnid clone if the allocation is proper. He Yuan naturally had the qualifications to speak these words as the powerful person who had directly repelled the human-faced arachnid. Luo Nan didn't have any objections, but he didn't say it in the private channel. He would only say it in public. "Sister He, what in the world were you thinking?" He Yuan's voice was piercingly cold and solemn. She didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. "Since there are so few people, it's impossible to form a complete coverage. There's no need to spread out, especially when the command and deployment is far from reaching a level of finesse." This was firing cannons. Luo Nan was stunned speechless when another voice jumped out from the hexier as expected. Oh. People from the military are different. Then how do we command and how do we deploy? Secretary He, give us a proper explanation. Impatience seeped through the oily tone. A flashing notification appeared in the corner of the retina interface. The number was 3,393. The avatar was an ugly black beetle. Love Go Small Say Netku He Yuan didn't follow the rhythm of the black beetle. She just adjusted the building structure diagram and opened up a split-screen interface in the lower right corner. It displayed a surveillance image of the hotel's interior. Luo Nan noticed that most of the faces on the screen were students. Looking at the scale and shape, it was the scene of the mutual assistant's cold dinner party that he had yet to enter. He Yuan quickly made a mark on the screen. One was located at the edge of the surveillance area. They were talking to a man and a woman. Shui Lei and Chen Xiaolin. The other was standing parallel to them. The black-suited male was getting closer and closer. Clearly, this was the image from before the incident. Luo Nan could see that Shui Lei and Chen Xiaolin had quarreled. They probably had misgivings about being in a public place. After quarreling for a few sentences, they left. They probably wanted to find a quiet place to talk. The black-suited male followed behind them the entire time. Then the surveillance image switched to the elevator entrance. Luo Nan, who was drawing with his head lowered, entered the frame. Of course, there was also Zhang Yingying, who was watching from the side. Please pay attention to everyone's position at this moment. He Yuan's piercingly cold voice rang out. According to Zhang Yingying's description and the display of the war chess mode, Mr. Luo discovered the abnormality on his friend's body at this moment. He gave a warning and was ambushed by the black wolf behind him. Black wolf. Luo Nan's gaze turned to the black-suited male on the ground. So this person had a code name. Speaking of which, this person was much more miserable than Shui Lei. He Yuan's attack just now had directly smashed his spine. Luo Nan didn't know if he could be saved. But He Yuan's explanation immediately stunned Luo Nan. Black Wolf is a registered member of the society. He is also a member of this search and capture operation. However, right now he is already a slave of the human-faced arachnid. He Yuan's tone was tranquil. She didn't have any other emotions because of the change in her companion's position. But the conference channel was a sheet of silence. Clearly, this fact made the others rather embarrassed. He Yuan's analysis continued at this time. We haven't found the scene of Black Wolf being infected. But according to the time of the last call, it was approximately 20 minutes ago. Then, the infected Black Wolf approached the next target. From the state of his target, we have reason to believe that he has already used his methods. He has been tailing them all the way, waiting for an opportunity to reap the fruits of battle. The human-faced arachnid's methods are crude and intense. There is practically no buffer time in between. And right now, we still don't know anything. Only He Yuan's voice remained in the conference channel for the time being. Only when Mr. Luo captured the traces of the human-faced arachnid and issued a warning to his friend did we begin to move. The first wave was Zhang Yingying, who was by Mr. Luo's side. The elevator just happened to arrive at the 81st floor with a ding. There were no disturbances in between. Presumably, it was the result of special control. Luo Nan was startled when the elevator door opened. On the opposite wall was a beautiful woman with drooping shoulders against the wall. Wasn't that Zhang Yingying? This young woman, who had always radiated with vitality, was clearly receiving information from the conference channel. She had a premonition of the unpleasant evaluation that would follow. She raised her hand weakly. Hi. I'm here. Chapter 71. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go. SpeakNet provides you with wonderful novels to read. Aside from Zhang Yingying, He Yuan's 4 subordinates were also present. They were responsible for moving the 3 unconscious people out of the elevator and settling them down. He Yuan's footsteps did not stop. She gestured with her hand, inviting Luo Nan to the society's reserved conference room. Zhang Yingying was basically ignored, but she was exceptionally obedient. She called out to Luo Nan and followed by the side without a word. She received the analysis and criticism from the Hexier. However, He Yuan did not completely reject her. Zhang Yingying's first reaction was passable. Things happened suddenly, but she was still able to discover the abnormality of the black wolf and intervene. However, her biggest problem was that her attack power was severely lacking. She was unable to stop the black wolf from continuing to harm Mr. Luo. In fact, if Mr. Luo's friend was not an outstanding martial artist, he would be able to rely on his powerful willpower and blood energy to break away from the human-faced arachnid's further corrosion. Mr. Luo would not have been able to survive the pincer attack. Zhang Yingying's expression did not turn for the better even though she heard the evaluation. Instead, she became more gloomy. She was even a bit distracted. The group of people entered the conference room. The conference room was empty right now. There were only a few monitoring devices installed in a messy manner. He Yuan didn't even give them a glance. She invited Luo Nan to sit down and continued to analyze the relevant problems. Since all communication was carried out on the psychic wave network, the plane of reality was still a sheet of silence after they sat down. The atmosphere continued to be tense. The worst problem appeared in the second wave. First, Zhang Yingying's second reaction was very clumsy. She watched helplessly as Mr. Luo's elevator sank. She wasn't able to make any effective movements, and she wasn't able to follow up in time. Second, the support of the action team, including me, was completely disjointed. It took a full 74 seconds for Mr. Luo to be completely exposed to the threat of the black wolf and the human-faced arachnid. We should rejoice. We are still able to analyze the situation around Mr. Luo and not bow 3 times to his corpse. But this result has practically nothing to do with the members of the action team. Still, no one spoke. He Yuan's analysis wasn't anything out of the ordinary, but it was an ironclad fact. The clumsy response of the society's action team was completely exposed. Luo Nan saw number 3393, the black beetle who had voiced his doubts the earliest, directly log off. He exited from the conference mode. It looked like he was an arrogant and unruly fellow. Facing this, He Yuan's expression didn't change. She continued, compared to the problems exposed during the operation, what I'm most unable to understand is still the arrangement of the plan beforehand. I didn't receive the notification from the association until half an hour before the operation. There was no mission briefing either. As a secretary and a member of the security team, I only saw Mr. Luo's basic information after I arrived at the hotel. The key information was also vague. According to my understanding, Mr. Luo also didn't know anything about the operation team members. Spirit. He's Soul Team. Team. Luo. Luo. Team. The members of the operation team fought by themselves. They didn't utilize the abilities of psychic beings at all to realize effective command. Moreover, they placed their focus on the infected, neglecting the human-faced arachnid's ability to move independently. This caused the mission to fail completely. These are some of the problems I've discovered during the operation. I chin. I but I not. From. I from. Dong. But I hope everyone can seriously discuss and solve the problems that have been exposed and continue to be exposed. Otherwise, our pursuit of the human-faced arachnid will only lead to continuous failures, leading to unfathomable consequences. Love go little say netku over. He Yuan's long analysis finally came to an end. No one spoke for a long time in the conference channel. No one responded to her proposal. The atmosphere was awkward. Luo Nan even thought that if He Yuan's words hadn't softened a bit in the end, perhaps more people would have withdrawn like the black beetle. He could see that He Yuan's strict and serious behavior was a bit out of tune with the society's overall atmosphere. Luo Nan thought back to Zhang Yingying's evaluation of ability users this morning. The evaluation of ability users such as arrogant, wild and unruly, eccentric and perverted, and so on. Now it seemed that they weren't particularly exaggerated. At the very least, the evaluation of scattered sand was absolutely realistic. Perhaps this operation would come to an end without any progress. Unexpectedly, Zhang Yingying spoke through the conference channel. Everyone, we've lost face to this extent. Aren't we afraid of making a public appearance? Tactics are needed to fight a boss. We've really underestimated the enemy by swarming over like a swarm of bees. Let's talk things over together. Zhang Yingying's words were admittedly dispirited. She had the appearance of everyone, come over for a farewell meal, but the effect was actually quite good. In the silent and stiff conference channel, there was a chaotic sound. Sure. Let's go up and discuss tactics. It's good to meet each other. Mr. Luo hasn't said anything yet. Has he been turned into a figurehead by the secretary? He's the vice president. Today's fortune is tomorrow's calamity. Mr. Luo really knows how to play it safe. Chapter 72. Genius in 1 second. Remember love. Go. SpeakNet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Zhang Yingying spoke of a portrait. Though it was without a head or tail, Luo Nan really did observe her. Frankly speaking, Zhang Yingying had indeed changed, and it was quite big. Her entire essence, energy, and soul had changed. If Luo Nan were to draw her now, he would absolutely not draw her as a person who seemed to be in a game at all times and possessed an intense desire for victory. The influence of her emotions was actually this big. Mr. Luo. He Yuan sent a message through the Heir. Please enter the encrypted communication project 001. Okay. Luo Nan followed the request and entered the project module that was established at the last minute. A simple interface had already been built inside. Luo Nan was unsure of the concrete contents, but he could see that it was related to him and the human-faced arachnid. Information was constantly being updated right now, changing at every moment. Was this a template that came with the Heir? Or was it He Yuan who built it herself? If it was the latter, then Luo Nan could only sigh in admiration at He Yuan's powerful control on the mental plane. Before the meeting, I hope to gather some information to use as a basis for decision-making. Mr. Luo, you don't mind, right? Luo Nan answered honestly, there are some things that I don't even know how to say. It's fine. It's fine as long as you can provide first-hand information. Back in the elevator, aside from your friend Shuelei. Yes. Aside from Mr. Shui blocking the Black Wolf, you should have created some sort of restriction on the human-faced arachnid. Is that right? Luo Nan secretly rolled his eyes. How could the first question be so sharp? However, the heavily chained crow that was molded from his grandfather's formatting theory was an open and above-board achievement. Luo Nan didn't even have the time to publicize it. He didn't have any thoughts of keeping it to himself. What he needed to avoid was his relationship with the human-faced arachnid and his intuition as the trump card of a psychic. That was all. The problem right now was that he couldn't explain it in a short amount of time. So he could only express it rather regretfully. At the time, I felt that there was some sort of negative existence in the elevator, so I tried to use the chains to suppress it. Chains. Luo Nan was waiting for this question. He took a deep breath and expressed it as clearly as he could. This is a format constructed on the mental plane according to my grandfather's theory. Its function is to suppress the abnormal state of the body and mind, He Yuan said curiously, constructing a format on the mental plane. Do you mean the prototype format of formatting theory? Luo Nan's impassioned mood was instantly doused in cold water. He really wanted to roar in response, screw the archetype format, but he quickly recalled the source of He Yuan's strength in the elevator. Wasn't it the format of fire? Without a doubt, in the heart of a burner like her, Yan Hong's archetype formatting theory was the cornerstone of power. She wouldn't accept anything else. He actually wanted to seriously expound on his grandfather's theory. He was really stupid. Luo Nan's mood instantly turned gloomy. He didn't have the mood to explain further. He just said, I don't know what your professional terminology is, but the general meaning is like this. Love goes small say netku. This theory seems very interesting. I hope to have a chance to discuss it with Mr. Luo. Yuan was like an outstanding presenter. She would never easily deny the opinions of others, yet she always grasped the core theme. Can Mr. Luo describe the feeling of directly confronting the human-faced arachnid? For example, the performance of the human-faced arachnid's abilities. Luo Nan didn't respond immediately. He needed to sort out the relevant information and protect his own trump card. He needed a certain amount of time. Yuan wasn't just a questioner and a listener. She felt Luo Nan's hesitation and she first shared her own experience. Actually, yesterday I joined forces with my comrades to exterminate a human-faced arachnid clone. Today I encountered it again. The difference from yesterday's clone is quite clear. Yesterday. Where? Luo Nan was a bit surprised. Mr. Luo should know. It's the source of the human-faced arachnid incident, the research and development area. The military transport ship Lan Shan. It's her. That blade light, there's no mistaking it. Luo Nan's loosened memory barrier opened up like this. He instantly connected the thin woman in front of him with the deep blue walker who had slain the burning wraith on the military transport ship yesterday. The feeling of that blade light was completely compatible. Yes, this was the slayer who had slain the burning wraith that he had subdued. Sure enough, this was a world piled up by coincidences. They could be considered to have a grudge between them. Luo Nan didn't really care, but the question he had been keeping in his stomach suddenly emerged. Sister, he can activate the format of fire without the deep blue armor? What Luo Nan really wanted to ask was, why do I feel that the strength you unleashed in the elevator is even stronger than when you're wearing the armor? Unfortunately, this kind of self-exposing question could only be kept in his stomach. Yuan didn't find it strange that Luo Nan was certain that she was a deep blue walker. In this world, deep blue walkers and burners had a 1-2-1 relationship. The format of fire can already exist without the armor starting from the third generation of burners. After all, technology is constantly advancing. Yuan didn't explain in depth. What he could confirm was that he had not truly seen the human-faced arachnid in the instant he had drawn the wraith sign. What had stimulated him was an intense yet fuzzy feeling. It was similar to an incomparably mysterious intuition. Luo Nan was no stranger to this feeling. When he added his drawings, the self-portrait of the prison building, the sketch of the capture of Li Shueqing, they were all pieced together by the details of this intuitive inspiration. If he used Zhang Yingying's description of a shaman as a standard, this was the only ability he could rely on. Bang! Someone in the conference room slammed the table. Luo Nan was also alarmed. He originally thought that it was someone who was dissatisfied with Yuan, but when he raised his head, he discovered that it was actually a group of ability users. They had inexplicably sunk into an argument. It seemed that some problems were triggered as the content of the conversation gradually deepened. In a peaceful state, everyone was smiling, and no difference could be seen. But at this time, almost everyone in the conference room had emotions, but they showed different faces. Some were anxious, some were angry, some were absent-minded, some were disappointed, and some were watching coldly from the sidelines. Luo Nan felt that this was quite interesting. He took out his digital pen, and the tip of the pen fell down, sketching on the flexible e-ink screen. The originally chaotic lines underwent a bit of embellishment, transforming into a muddy and turbulent river. The structure of the wraith sign was hidden within the tightly woven lines. Then he drew a few sketched fish within these lines. They were either undulating within the waves, leaping out of the water, or diving to the bottom of the river. Their postures and temperaments were all different. They symbolized certain people in the conference room. But there was one thing that was the same: every fish was bobbing within the river, affected by the waves and the current. Luo Nan used this to symbolize complex emotions and willpower. Love goes small say net connects. Luo Nan drew a small boat on the surface of the river. The chains and anchors hung down to symbolize himself. Perhaps he was originally a member of the people bobbing within the river, but because of the heavily chained crow, his position was anchored and he was somewhat detached. As for He Yuan, her situation was similar to his. As a burner, she possessed the power of the format. She was like a reef in the water. As for the human-faced arachnid, it was a hunter hidden deep within the river. It used negative emotions as a primer, waiting for an opportunity to strike. It could permeate and exert influence on other people, but it could only meet force with force against Luo Nan and He Yuan. This was where his advantage lay. The tip of the pen reached this point, and a line of thought suddenly became clear in Luo Nan's mind. Picking Black Wolf to make a move shouldn't be a coincidence. How could the human-faced arachnid have the luck to randomly pick an awakened? Luo Nan thought about Shuai. He was also an excellent resource. His blood and energy were abundant. He was a top-notch tonic. Perhaps the human-faced arachnid had chosen every single person present. It had made contact with every single person, but no one had detected it. Yes, there was a specter like this. It had once floated above everyone's head, and then it had chosen the one it liked the most. It was also the most unlucky one. Just like now, the wraith sign hidden in the turbid river was connected to every fish through the lines that passed through it. Mr. Luo. Ha! What? Luo Nan woke up from his trance with a start and discovered that someone was greeting him. The one who spoke was a tall and skinny young man. His nickname should be Bamboo Pole. He always had a cheeky smile on his face. He looked like an optimist, but his words were very sharp. Mr. Luo's psychic ability, accuracy, and sharpness need not be mentioned. There have already been facts to verify it. Then what's the range of coverage? I heard President He say that we need to create tactics around psychics. Is it close combat or is it long-range bombardment? We need to figure this out, right? Luo Nan smiled bitterly and looked at Zhang Yingying. She was the one who put the hat on him. She was the one who explained it. Zhang Yingying glared back, but she still opened her mouth. Luo Nan just joined the society. He doesn't understand anything. He needs to let old you appraise him and give him some pointers. He needs to have a basic concept, but Bamboo Pole was unforgiving. I heard that Mr. Luo's psychic ability is presented in drawings. I've seen you draw and draw all this time. Do you have any inspiration? Oh, not really. Of course Luo Nan wouldn't say that he was drawing a picture of them and that he felt that they were all going to be swallowed up. Luo Nan discovered that he was being targeted in response. This group of ability users had enough of quarreling internally. They began to exert their strength externally. He Yuan wasn't easy to deal with, so they picked a soft persimmon like him to pinch. When all was said and done, it was because he wasn't convinced. I saw it all. The one who raised her hand and laughed was a woman nicknamed Cat Eyes. She was roughly 30 years old and had a hot figure. She wore heavy makeup and looked like a bar dancer. Luo Nan had a deep impression of her because her ability was long-range perception. It was already very similar to a psychic. But it wasn't effective against Darksider life forms. She played the role of a scout in the team. Now Luo Nan had seen it for himself. Separated by the conference table, he was at least 7 to 8 meters away from Cat Eyes. She could even see it. There were already people jeering at this time. Kitty, what did he draw? It's fine if Mr. Luo's face is tender. We can do it ourselves. Yeah. This is the first time I've seen this type. Kitty, you interpret it for us. Cat Eyes was the type who wished for the world to be in chaos. She didn't care about Luo Nan's expression and giggled as she opened her mouth to describe. This drawing has a very messy appearance. It's like a river. There are boats and reefs on the river. There are small fish swimming below, and then, Luo Nan was a bit helpless against this sort of noisy character. He wanted to put away the digital pen, but the pen tip sank a bit. It was as if an invisible thread had wrapped around it. There was a sudden reaction on the mental plane. The chains rattled and trembled. The wraith sign at the front also seemed to flicker with light. Luo Nan subconsciously moved his pen and a marvelous feeling appeared. It was as if he had brought something with him. Cat Eyes, who had been giggling, suddenly went mute at this moment. Blood seeped out from the corner of her eyes and she fell backwards. Chapter 74. A genius in 1 second remembers love. SpeakNet provides you with wonderful novels to read. The chairs in the conference room were quite stable. Cat Eyes bumped into the back of the chair, causing it to sway slightly and push her body forward. Her entire body was as soft as a noodle. Clearly, she had completely lost consciousness. She swayed a few more times before finally falling forward. Her forehead bumped into the conference table with a muffled sound. She did not react at all. The tip of the pen in Luo Nan's hand suddenly stopped. Aside from Cat Eyes' strange reaction, countless blurry and chaotic scenes suddenly exploded before his eyes. There were even more peculiar sounds, smells, and other signals. They surged over one after another. This was absolutely not the stimulation of his senses from the external environment. Instead, it was information signals that were directly transferred to his nervous system. There was no logic behind it. There was no distinction between primary and secondary. They just swarmed over like a swarm of bees. Luo Nan was already extremely familiar with how to deal with this enormous amount of information. He did not attempt to analyze it at all. Instead, he directly transmitted it through the heavily chained crow and sent it into the external neuron. Luo Nan was able to understand what this sudden and unforeseen event was all about because he had this familiar scene as a comparison. He had dug out a piece from the body of the human-faced arachnid in the elevator. He had received a large amount of energy and a huge amount of information that could make one's brain stop. Right now in the conference room, the impetuous woman Cat Eyes was using her ability to spy on Luo Nan's creation. Little did she know that this creation was a part of Luo Nan's ability to operate on the mental plane. Frankly speaking, this sort of spying was extremely stupid. Cat Eyes had swapped places with the human-faced arachnid. She took the initiative to deliver herself to Luo Nan's doorstep when Luo Nan's mental plane was the most active. Then, she was pierced through by the heavily chained crow. The chains and the wraith sign dug out a piece from her without a trace of politeness. The contents involved Cat Eyes' most proficient memories of long-range perception. The specific contents would need to be analyzed by the external neuron. Bang! Someone slammed the table when they saw Cat Eyes' miserable appearance. Kid Luo. What the hell are you doing? Bang! Someone beside Luo Nan also slammed the table and stood up. You bunch of idiots. What the hell are you doing when a psychic is working? The one who stood up and roared was Zhang Yingying. Perhaps it was because she had an instinctive protective heart towards the talent she had unearthed herself. She stood up without the slightest hesitation and tore at her friend. Her imposing manner soared to the heavens. Do you even have the intelligence of a professional? Whether it was Cat Eyes or the friends by his side, they all knew that they had caused a huge disaster. Each and every one of them shrunk their heads, not uttering a single word. He Yuan pressed against her ears for a moment. She frowned at Zhang Yingying and said, I've been looking for old you. I haven't been able to contact him. He might be in a psychic state. I don't know how to contact Mr. Gao and Mr. Bai. You contact them and ask how to handle this situation. Oh, okay. Zhang Yingying knew that the situation was urgent. She immediately did as she was told. Cough. I'm not a gifted student. I'm a systematic student. A sudden voice rang out. Luo Nan raised his half-closed eyelids and corrected Zhang Yingying's misunderstanding once more. Zhang Yingying was startled and then overjoyed. She wanted to pat Luo Nan on the shoulder, but she thought for a bit. In the end, she didn't dare to do so. She just slapped the table in passing. As long as you're fine, you'll be a systematic student in the future. In the future, if anyone is blind enough to dare say that you're a gifted student, I'll chop them in half. As she spoke, her gaze swept across the faces of a few unreliable fellows across from her. Cat Eyes immediately raised her hands in surrender. Yes. I'm a systematic student without a doubt. Even Cat Eyes, the instigator of all this, was kneeling. The others grunted and groaned. They could only tacitly agree to this preposterous classification. He Yuan's cold and hard fingers pressed against the side of Luo Nan's neck. She felt the amount of blood flowing through his aorta. Her other hand gently placed on his forehead. She spoke softly. Are there any symptoms of congestion or ischemia in your brain? Dizziness, blackness in front of your eyes? Luo Nan shook his head a bit awkwardly. I'm fine. Luo Nan really was fine. His mind was clear from the very beginning. The reason why he didn't react to the outside world was because his attention was completely focused on the external neuron. Though the two pieces of information that had been dug up could both be described as enormous, the contents of Cat Eyes' long-range perception were nothing in comparison. The external neuron was still in the process of analyzing the human-faced arachnid's information. However, Cat Eyes had already finished analyzing the information within a short dozen or so seconds. Luo Nan's mind stirred slightly and the interface of the flexible e-ink screen appeared on his retina. He noticed that the number of icons on the interface had changed once more. Chapter 75. Genius 1 second. Remember if you want to go. Shuan.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Just like in the underground laboratory, on the main interface of the flexible e-ink screen, there was only one additional icon. It wasn't the previously existing gear, but it still had an extremely familiar appearance. The tetrahedron, inscribed sphere, and circumscribed sphere. Luo Nan's visualization diagram. However, the icon was dark as a hole. It was as if an application had been downloaded, but the download and installation had not been completed. Most of it was still in the shadows, and only a very small portion was lit up. The progress showed 1%. It was surprisingly slow. Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts swept over the surface. He made some basic information clear, but doubts followed. In the end, how much did he dig out from the body of the human-faced arachnid? If he wanted to express the theme, shouldn't it be displayed as wraith sign or something? What did it have to do with visualization? These questions could only be answered after the download analysis was completed. Luo Nan paid attention to another matter. The results of his analysis of Cat Eyes were not displayed on the main interface. He felt that there was a layer separating him from it when he wanted to touch it. There seemed to be some tricks to it. Hey, are you okay? Zhang Yingying, as well as the other people in the conference room, saw Luo Nan inexplicably enter a trance state after replying with a few sentences. Their hearts grew more and more uncertain. Being a shaman was a profession that involved mysterious things on the spiritual level. It was really not easy to grasp. Other than old Yugao Deshuan, who was well cultivated and didn't seem to have any abnormalities, the rest of the spirit mediums in the association were all a little neurotic. It was said that it had something to do with the backlash they received when they used their abilities in their early years. Zhang Yingying could not help but glare angrily at Cat Eyes. Who knew that Luo Nan's line of sight would move at this time? He moved in sync with Zhang Yingying and pointed at Cat Eyes. Love Go Small Say Netka. Cat Eyes was already a bit immune to Zhang Yingying's angry glare. But when Luo Nan looked at her with an unreadable expression, her heart suddenly skipped a beat. She was inexplicably nervous. Hey, what are you so nervous about? Even Cat Eyes herself could not bear to watch her overly abnormal emotions. She had always been a troublemaker. She was careless, and her courage was outrageous. She had always prided herself on this. However, ever since she caused trouble just now, she felt that her heart had no roots and she had really become an obedient cat. Now that she was facing Luo Nan, the feeling of weakness continued to sprout. Finally, her self-consciousness counterattacked. He was yelled at by Zhang Yingying just now because they were friends. Who the hell do you think you are? Cat Eyes immediately widened her eyes. She glared back at Luo Nan, and her mouth became even more unrestrained. What? You want compensation? Sure, can I sleep with you? According to her observations of Luo Nan, this introverted and immature kid would most likely be unable to resist. In the end, Zhang Yingying would have to take the lead. When the time came, she would pester him endlessly for a bit and give him a more or less reasonable explanation. But the problem was that Luo Nan's gaze was completely devoid of any emotions that could be interpreted. Luo Nan was not affected by any external emotions, including Cat Eye's deliberate provocation. Luo Nan saw that Zhang Yingying wanted to slap the table again, but he just nodded to Cat Eyes. Come over and help me out, okay? Everyone in the conference room looked at each other in dismay. Cat Eyes pointed at herself and said, Me. Hold on. This posture is too weak. Cat Eyes wanted to flip out again, but Luo Nan had already lowered his head. His digital pen fell onto the flexible e-ink screen once more. What are you pretending for at such a young age? Cat Eyes let out a laugh. She suddenly jumped over from the table without any warning. Her 12-centimeter roots were as tall as the heavens, and she landed noiselessly. Her movements were nimble and she was truly like a large cat. The thick and dizzying smell of perfume covered the entire area. She supported herself on the table with one hand and half of her body turned into a shadow. She fell onto the flexible e-ink screen in Luo Nan's hand. Hey, pretentious kid. How do you want me to help you? It can't be that you can't draw a picture, so you want to find a scapegoat in the end, right? Luo Nan glanced at her. He just felt that this woman was unreasonable. But sudden inspiration was very precious. He didn't want to make a mistake, so he simply lowered his head and looked straight at the flexible e-ink screen. He said, Don't talk. Try your best not to let your imagination run wild. Look at this picture of mine. What do you think? You want to harm me again? Thinking back to the miserable state of her bloodshot eyes, Cat Eyes felt a bit weak in her heart. It wasn't easy for her imposing manner to rise, but it rapidly declined. Zhang Yingying pushed her from behind. I've already looked at it several dozen times. Nothing happened. You're clearly looking to die, okay? Who knows if you guys are having an affair or not? Cat Eyes casually mocked back. She squinted her eyes, looking as if she wanted to look but did not dare to look. Shut up. Luo Nan's commanding words entered her ears, and Cat Eyes' heart skipped a beat. She really did not speak anymore. Her eyes opened a bit and she looked towards Luo Nan's flexible e-ink screen. She had already used her long-range perception to scan this sketch, but she did not discover anything strange about it. She struggled to grab hold of any variable. If both of them were in a hopeless situation, she would choose the relatively better one. She focused all of her consciousness and screamed desperately, Help, help. The chains clearly sensed her summons and came crashing through the air. Cat Eyes did not have the slightest intention of evading. She allowed the chains to pierce through her body and pierce through her soul. She did not feel any pain. Instead, she felt a strange sense of support. She tried her best to penetrate the shackles into every corner of her body and mind. The walala trembling sound disappeared and was replaced by a strange ka-sua-sua-sua sound. Every time a chain was locked, it would be dead. From Cat Eye's perspective, this represented a safety rope on the body of a person in danger. Every time a chain was locked, she felt a wonderful sense of security and satisfaction. Then, Cat Eyes felt herself rise up and gradually leave this darkness. Her strength gradually recovered and her consciousness entered the plane of reality. She faintly felt that something was wrong. But the incomparably realistic experience of the mental plane collided with reality. It was as if she was placed in a half-awake and half-awake dream. Everything that was inconceivable seemed to be as it should be. She even took the initiative to enter the psychic wave network and went to Project 001 where everyone was gathered. At this time, she was completely capable of letting out a cry for help that she had not been able to before. But this thought had just emerged when it was extinguished like a bubble in the face of enormous fear and uncertainty. Cat Eyes had a feeling that the chains that pierced through her body and soul were her support. But a single sound could strangle her to death. In other words, her life was completely in the hands of the chain's controller. This was completely illogical, but Cat Eyes did not have the courage to verify it in her current dazed and chaotic mental state. Right now, all she wanted was for this damnable operation to end quickly so that she could properly sort out the logic within. Or perhaps, the controller of the chain. Cat Eyes' gaze fell upon Luo Nan's body. It was him, this demon. It would be fine if he could give her a clear explanation. But from beginning to end, Luo Nan did not give her a single glance or a single hint. It was to the point that Cat Eyes sometimes wondered if everything that was happening before her eyes was just a hallucination of a mental patient. And at this time, an astonishing development occurred in Project 001. A low clamor sounded in the encrypted communications channel. It's right. It's right. Where is this? Everyone's attention was focused there, including Cat Eyes. The dream and reality were connected. The two mutually permeated each other. Everything became as it should be. Project 001 had already turned into a conference channel. Cat Eyes' late arrival did not attract anyone's attention. Everyone focused their attention on the structural diagram of Limestone Water Village Pub. The diagram that Luo Nan took out corresponded to a certain part of the diagram. The diagram that came from Luo Nan was a variant of a hexagram. The corners were slightly rounded. This sort of structure did not exist on any of the floors of the building. However, when Yuan changed her train of thought and piled up the floor plans of each floor, the answers suddenly appeared. It's the west side of the 16th, 17th, and 18th floors. The rooms of the three floors are grouped together. It belongs to a KTV club. Yuan came to a conclusion after looking through the hotel's information. The relevant information was immediately converted into psychic wave information and transmitted directly into everyone's brain. Yuan's move, even with the support of the Heir, was an extremely high-level application on the mental plane. It was hard for normal awaken to even dream of it. But at this time, no one expressed any astonishment. This was because all the astonished emotions had long since been filled up by Luo Nan. Zhang Yingying's question represented practically everyone. What does this position represent? Is it the hiding place of the human-faced arachnid? Yes. I believe that this is just a place where it once stayed. Moreover, it played a crucial role in forming its current state. Luo Nan honestly explained according to the feeling he got from his drawing. He also felt that he was becoming more and more like a psychic. But you went straight to the 21st floor. You've never been here before, right? No. You've never been here before. This is my first time here. Even though the large living area had an awe-inspiring reputation within Acumen College, this was Luo Nan's first time here. On the other side, Bamboo Pole could not help but speak in doubt. Then how did you come up with this diagram? Out of thin air. Luo Nan still answered every question. I've never been here before. But Cat Eyes should have been here before. In an instant, everyone's gazes turned to Cat Eyes in unison. Chapter 77. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go. Show.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Cat Eyes suddenly had a ridiculous feeling of absurdity as she faced everyone's gazes. Love goes small. Say Netka, you guys are searching for the human-faced arachnid here. Do you know that there is a fellow who can snatch food from the mouth of the human-faced arachnid sitting right next to you? But in the end, she just replied blankly, I've been to the 18th floor and passed by this KTV, but I didn't feel any hexagram. Cat Eyes did not use the psychic wave network. Instead, she spoke directly. This made her feel that she was a bit closer to reality. No one could understand her current state of mind. Everyone thought back to Luo Nan's request for Cat Eye's help. Someone couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice, that's awesome. This is memory reading and subconscious digging. Lao Bai's dreamland technique. Old Bai's results are all messed up. How can it be so clear? Yes, it's completely graphic, so it's not easy to decipher. Hey, kitty, does it feel good to be dug so deeply? Finally, there was someone who was concerned about Cat Eyes' condition. However, Cat Eyes responded with a 12-centimeter tall slender root. With a howl, the one with the foul mouth knelt down, hugging his feet. Yuan clapped her hands, getting everyone present to focus their attention. In any case, we must conduct an investigation. We must strive to understand the mysteries behind the growth of the human-faced arachnid strength. At the same time, you can also do some practice. The previous meeting had more or less produced some results. Yuan convinced this group of ability users. In this situation where they were unable to sense the human-faced arachnid, they had to formulate a strategy around Luo Nan in order to guarantee their safety and effectiveness. Due to the lack of time, they had only made a preliminary design. There were many details that had not been perfected. They could use this opportunity to demonstrate it on the spot. From the 81st floor to the 18th floor, the 63rd floor should be fine, right? No one answered, and no one cowered. At a time like this, there must be no problem. Luo Nan looked all around. It seemed that he was the only one who didn't understand what was going on. That's right, when they were arguing just now, I was lost in thought. Currently, in the Limestone Water Village pub, there were a total of 12 members. Among them, the Black Wolf was heavily injured and unconscious, while the Black Beetle had long since left the team, leaving only 10 members. In addition, there were 4 professional bodyguards that Yuan had brought along. One of them was assigned to take care of Black Wolf, Shuelei, and the others who were injured. This way, there were a total of 13 people. This was precisely the centralized mode that Yuan had always advocated. Of course, this mode didn't mean that everyone had to squeeze into the same elevator. The 13 of them were divided into 2 groups. Luo Nan, Yuan, Zhang Yingyin, the 3 bodyguards, and the society's crag burst. A total of 7 people walked through the elevator. The power to protect Luo Nan was strengthened to the greatest degree. The other 6 people maintained a certain distance. They descended rapidly from the fire escape passageway and the inclined surface of the outer wall of the building. They formed a resonance with Luo Nan and the others. The Hexier was used to maintain communication in the middle. In case they encountered an attack from the human-faced arachnid, or if Luo Nan formed a clear response, they would quickly form an encirclement of support. The strategy was simple and crude, but it was very suitable for this temporary combination. Only the awakened could achieve such a direct method of advancement. Among them, Cat Eyes was nimble and lithe, as well as her long-range perception ability. She naturally became the scouting vanguard, and she was also one of the members that descended from the building. She shuttled back and forth amidst the interweaving lights and shadows of the building. The cold autumn night wind blew against her face. In the past, it would have been so carefree. But now, it was unable to blow away the knot in her heart. Cat Eyes was still hoping that she would be far away from Luo Nan. The situation of being bound and restrained would take a turn for the better. But when she deliberately dashed forward, putting a distance of 100 meters between them, the incorporeal chains continued to exist. Some of the chains were even buckling together. They made a clicking sound that was neither too fast nor too slow that only she could hear. She could not help but tremble with every sound that rang out. Although the physical distance was pulled apart, she was clearly getting closer and closer to the master of the chains on the mental plane. It was absolutely not an emotional distance. Instead, it was a terrifying magnification and distortion. Luo Nan's current state of mind was tranquil and slightly depressed. From Cat Eye's perspective, it was like the gray clouds of the desert sky were pressing down on her head. She unconsciously felt a bit suffocated. She seemed to be able to hold on for now, but she did not dare to imagine what would happen to her if Luo Nan became irritable and furious. "Kitty, you're rushing forward too much." Zhang Yingying reminded her through the hex ear. Cat Eyes snorted to herself. Her tall and slender roots drew a long mark on the glass wall, stopping her downward momentum. She speculated maliciously in her mind. Did Luo Nan tie up this Zhang Yingying long ago? Did she wag her tail and beg for pity? Does Her Majesty Empress Wu know about this? But soon, reason and her senses simultaneously told her that this was clearly not the case. Up until now, she was the only unlucky person in the vicinity. This answer made Cat Eyes even more vexed. Currently, Cat Eyes was the first to reach the 20th floor. She had taken the 5 floors up and down, a vast area of 50 meters in diameter, into the range of her senses. According to the plan, she leaped into the hallway of the building and walked down the fire escape. At the same time, she reported the situation. It really is a KTV. It's also a clubhouse, the kind that hurts the eyes. Humph, the age composition is seriously low. Young people these days. Cat Eyes entered the clubhouse, which was decorated in a blurry and strange style. It was like a maze, just like the vast majority of similar places. Cat Eyes was dressed in a fiery dancer outfit. She fit in quite well. The young boys passing by cast their gazes at her. Occasionally, they would bump into a waiter, but they would be confused by the thick makeup on her face. In a moment of stupefaction, they would pass by her. Cat Eyes swayed her long legs. She seemed to be leisurely, but she was actually very nimble as she passed through the rooms on the 3 floors. In the end, she arrived at the 16th floor. According to the floor plan, this was one of the largest rooms in the hexagram structure. Right now, a fiery party was going on inside. Although she did not enter the room, her sight, hearing, and smell had already clearly reproduced the situation inside with her long-range senses. Cat Eyes lazily transmitted, "No ability users have been discovered. Do you want to do an on-the-spot investigation?" This time, it was He Yuan who spoke. "Don't destroy the scene. Wait until Mr. Luo arrives before handling it." Just as the call ended, someone swayed over from behind. It was a young lad. His age could not be over 20, but it was clear that he was very experienced. He pretended to be dizzy and simply reached out with his hand to touch Cat Eyes' perky buttocks. However, when he was 2 centimeters away, the young drunkard felt a pain in his wrist. He inexplicably swung his body to the side and slammed into the wall with a bang. The young drunkard was in a daze. Just as his anger was rising, he was suddenly dumbfounded. Cat Eyes was silently leaning against the wall to the side. The sexy curves in the tight sequin dance costume, the long legs wrapped in black stockings, and the thin and tall legs that stretched the soles of her feet, together with the wall and the floor, naturally formed a soul-stirring shape. Her casually scattered short curly hair covered a small half of her face. Her fiery red lips faintly opened and closed, forming a smile that was not a smile. "Little brother, do you have a cigarette? The young drunkard immediately forgot about his previous encounter. He chuckled foolishly, I don't have any on me, but I do have some inside. Our Mystic Arts Research Society does this. Let's go together. He reached out with his hand to touch Cat Eye's towering chest. However, what welcomed him was the world spinning once more. This time, his head slammed into the wall and he immediately fainted. Chapter 78. Genius 1 second. Remember if you want to go. Speak Net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Cat Eyes exerted her strength ingeniously. She let the young drunkard support himself with his shoulders and feet. He was half leaning and half crooked, maintaining his body from falling. Love go little say Netku. In addition to the flirtatious beauty at his side, it was a typical case of a pervert meeting a flirtatious ghost. They were about to fool around together. The waiters that passed by occasionally cast curious glances at them at most. They didn't have any other reactions. Cat Eyes just waited at the door. She even had the leisure to pull out a lady's cigarette and light it. She casually asked in the channel, what the hell is the Mystic Arts Research Society? There are 6 schools nearby. There are 4 societies with the same name. The Mystic Arts has been quite popular in recent years. The figure just now was a variation of the Star of David. It doesn't seem like a coincidence. Bamboo Pole, who was in charge of intelligence work, indicated for Cat Eyes to lift up the drunkard's face. He gave her a face recognition and soon came to an answer, Huang Bingjin. Acumen College's Mystic Arts Research Society officer. He's a rich second generation. Acumen College. Zhang Yingying let out an unclear laugh. Unfortunately, no one besides Luo Nan understood. Bamboo Pole continued, in addition, I discovered something amazing in the club's database. Take a look at what it is, a contact list. They're all female students. The information is complete. The types are plentiful. There's everything you need. Wow! A strange silence appeared in the channel until Crag burst, who was next to Luo Nan, cursed and revealed the secret, they're charging by the head. Bamboo Pole, why don't you go die? Crag burst was a 2-meter-tall brawny man. He had spent nearly 10 years in the military. His temperament was a bit coarse, but he was an extremely good choice for a bodyguard and shield. It was because of his military background that he was the most respectful and cooperative towards Yuayin. Love go little say Netku. He instinctively glanced over, but Yuain's expression didn't change. It was as if she hadn't heard a thing. Bamboo Pole didn't forget about proper business in the private channel. The database contains the agreement signed between the club and Acumen College's Mystic Arts Research Society. You can see that the club was renovated 4 years ago in accordance with the design requirements of the society. At the same time, this club is also a big financial backer of the club. The funds listed in the public accounts are more than 7 figures every year, and it's even more unclear in private. The elevator had already reached the 16th floor. Unlike Cat Eyes, this group of people was too big of a target. The waiter came over early to inquire about them. Yuain ignored him and directly asked Luo Nan, Mr. Luo. Luo Nan raised his head and looked at this strange and indistinct clubhouse space. The basic characteristic of the coating on the outer wall was that it was made up of peculiar tree vines and decorative designs that encircled the mysterious circular structure of a magical array. The dim, dark red streams of light were like solvents entering tubes in a laboratory. They passed through the vines and patterns on the wall and traveled among the seemingly independent magic circles. Luo Nan looked for quite a while before speaking in a low voice. The lighting effects here are quite interesting. The waiter clearly saw who was standing in the middle of the crowd and immediately revealed a standard smile. The style of our clubhouse was planned and designed by a professional mysticism team in order to bring our customers a brand new and special experience. Luo Nan interrupted the waiter's cliché. Prepare a private room for us. Also, are the members of the Mystic Society still in 1613? Luo Nan was referring to the room that Cat Eyes had locked onto. The waiter nodded and Luo Nan headed over there. He Yuan ordered the 3 bodyguards to wait in the private room first. Zhang Yingying had the waiter prepare a fruit platter and red wine. She had the appearance of meeting a guest before having fun. At the same time, He Yuan issued an order on the psychic wave network, octopus. Hallucinogen. Several seconds later, a young man wearing a funny cartoon t-shirt and a jacket came out from a nearby restroom. He greeted Cat Eyes, who was waiting outside 1613, and directly pushed open the door to enter. Cat Eyes grabbed the young drunkard next to her and entered the private room right behind him. The overall structure of 1613 was an extremely standard circular shape. The dazzling projection equipment in the center was designed in the form of a very peculiar lampstand. Right now, it ignited with an ambiguous pink glow, smearing the dusky room into an even more chaotic mess. There were no sofas, chairs, or the like in the private room. There were only a few soft cushions. Everyone was casually sitting on the ground. There were 20 to 30 people playing and accompanying. But right now, these people were already under the dual effects of their own drugs and octopus's hallucinogen. Their consciousness was in chaos. They were either men and women hugging each other or laughing and crying. They were completely unaware of the changes in the outside world. Even Octopus did not expect this excessively intense result. He was currently adjusting the composition of the drug in a flurry to avoid creating a group of idiots. Cat Eyes rolled her eyes at him and casually tossed the drunkard to the ground. "Hurry up. We're already outside." A knock rang out from the door as they spoke. The waiter was the first to walk in. He saw this scene, but he didn't seem surprised at all. Chapter 79. I think that the surrounding things are all its nourishment. Luo Nan pointed at the surrounding squirming and giggling human bodies. The human-faced arachnid really did have a special fondness for these negative emotions and desires. He hesitated for a moment before continuing to speak. There are also these patterns. They count as magical arrays. I know very little about the mystic arts. Are there any that I'm good at? Zhang Yingying immediately raised her hand from behind. Does my experience with tarot cards count? He Yuan saw that Luo Nan wanted to say something but hesitated. She directly said, "Right now, Mr. Luo, you are the only one among us who has the qualifications to make a judgment about the human-faced arachnid. There is no need to introduce other explanations." Zhang Yingying stuck out her tongue. Luo Nan scratched his head, but in the end he continued, "In the beginning, I thought that these decorations, the vines, the patterns, and the magical arrays were all just for show. They had no real meaning. But here, a portion of the patterns seem to have displayed their use. They are like water channels, gathering a portion of energy here." Luo Nan pointed at the projector in the form of a lampstand. He didn't need to bring out his psychic abilities. He just needed to use his eyes to do this. The geometric patterns and the lampstand left behind remnants similar to the dark red spores on the warship, but they were also slowly evaporating. He Yuan couldn't see these residues, but she took out a small and exquisite spray from her pocket and sprayed it on the lampstand. After 2 seconds, the light screen that came with the spray flickered with a faint light. Luo Nan could roughly guess that this should be a special substance similar to the shadow mist. It was capable of capturing traces of the Darksider species interfering with the real world. Indeed, there are remnants of the relevant rays. Zhang Yingying walked over at this time. She pressed down on Luo Nan's shoulder and looked at the lampstand. A while passed before she spoke to He Yuan, who was carefully observing as well. "The matter seems to be complicated. Does it involve a secret order?" He Yuan grunted but didn't immediately respond. Secret order? Luo Nan didn't understand. An inexplicable and troublesome organization of lunatics. Luo Nan stared at her. you said that ability users don't have secret societies and the like. Nothing is absolute in this world, and it's not a secret society, it's a cult, okay? Zhang Yingying saw that He Yuan didn't respond for a time. She faced Luo Nan and shrugged her shoulders. Think about it. There are 600,000 ability users in the entire world. The number of people who have a relatively complete cultivation system and have cultivated in a down-to-earth manner is at most a tenth. As for the remaining 500,000 or so, many of them have inexplicably acquired certain abilities. One plate was black and the other was white. They were symmetrical and hung motionless in the air, forming the classic form of a scale. At this moment, Zhang Yingying grinned. She wanted to say something, but she didn't open her mouth in the end. Instead, Octopus let out a low cry. If it's as Mr. Luo says, you possess an effective format. Then please choose the most suitable building materials for you and complete this building in a solid manner. This involves a complete transformation of your body's composition and mental willpower. It's absolutely not just visualization on the mental plane. If it's just data, then it's a bit better. But if it's an exquisite yet fragile piece of toothpick art that exists in the real world, it would collapse with a single breath. It would be meaningless. Aha! A toothpick-type man. Zhang Yingying clapped her hands in laughter. She didn't mind sprinkling salt on Luo Nan's wounds in the slightest. Who knew that He Yuan would change her target in the next moment, Miss Zhang? I know that you don't have any ill intentions towards Mr. Luo. But for a newcomer like him, your habitual jokes or exaggerated expressions are very easy to mislead. Just like with regards to the issue of secret orders, even though I don't like the way secret orders do things, I know that every secret order on record has a leader with an ability value of A. In the society's 3 levels of ability system, awakened, engineer, and extraordinary, they are at the top. They are powerhouses that stand at the peak of the world, and they also possess outstanding intelligence. They are absolutely not the powerful madmen that you speak of. You have a plan in mind, but it's very easy for you to cause Mr. Luo to misunderstand and form a wrong impression. For a psychic, this kind of wrong impression is very likely to be fatal. Zhang Yingying choked for a moment. Soon her eyebrows jumped up. She had made a mistake in her previous actions and received He Yuan's criticism. She had nothing to say. But right now, even her usual way of doing things had been reprimanded to the point of being useless. He Yuan, you really think too highly of yourself. Luo Nan felt that the atmosphere between the two was extremely tense, but it was all related to him. He felt a bit awkward for a time. Right when he was thinking about how to mediate, his wristband vibrated. Luo Nan's eyelids jumped when he saw the number. He rushed to connect. Auntie. Chapter 81. I'm still upstairs. Luo Nan was unable to mediate the conflict between the two ladies. He took 2 steps forward and responded in a low voice. There was no doubt that his aunt was waiting somewhere nearby, waiting for the cold dinner to end. Luo Nan didn't feel the slightest bit surprised at this sort of stalking behavior. His aunt had this sort of temperament. She was determined to bring him home tonight. She wouldn't give Luo Nan any reason to refuse. If it were a few days ago, Luo Nan would have done everything possible to escape his aunt's evil clutches. But right now, his drug production was in a state of shortage. There was nothing to do even if he returned to Blue Bay Community. His thoughts of refusing weren't that firm. Luo Nan resisted a few more times, but in the end, he threw in the towel and admitted defeat. I'm with a friend right now. I'll be down soon. Where are you, aunt? I'll come find you in a bit. Admitting defeat to his aunt wasn't a big deal, but Luo Nan still had some reservations. The effects of the withdrawal reaction couldn't be ignored. Suddenly cutting off the drug supply could very well lead to some abnormal changes in his nervous system. His formatting had just shown results. What should he do if it regressed because of this? Luo Nan looked at the friend list on the Hexier and gained a bit of confidence. It seemed that he really did have an additional channel of choice after joining the society. Luo Nan first dealt with his aunt with grunts and then turned to ask Zhang Yingying, "Octopus bro is very good at making drugs. Does he sell them to the outside world?" Zhang Yingying blurted out, "Who are you harboring evil intentions towards?" There was no way to communicate. "Sister He, you just have to display your invincible might and correct her 3 distorted views." Luo Nan rolled his eyes. He felt that it was more appropriate to directly communicate with Octopus Bro. But Zhang Yingying wasn't happy, probably because his expression was too obvious. She wrapped her arms around his neck. "Hey, speak clearly. What the hell do you want?" 9.5 out of 10 people who do business with Octopus Bro aren't good people. Oh, wait a minute. Zhang Yingying suddenly reached out and pulled at his face. Of course, Luo Nan wouldn't let her move, but this woman's strength far exceeded his by who knows how many levels. He was simply unable to resist. How many times had this happened? Luo Nan's face was flushed red. He was unable to suppress his anger. He Yuan frowned and wanted to stop her, but Zhang Yingying looked as if she had let go of all past grievances. She called out to her, "Come, come, come. Let's take a look. I've always felt that the color of this kid's pupils was abnormal, as if he had taken too many drugs. Tell me, do you usually have this kind of bad habit? Why was he suddenly so sharp?" Luo Nan was shocked. The smile on this girl's face was much fainter. Her body had a clear and sharp aura. She was clearly ready to go. But after entering the room, Luo Nan's eyes were filled with nothing abnormal. Chen Xiaolin was in deep sleep on the bed. Aside from being weak, there were no traces of the human-faced arachnid. The 3 people exchanged glances. They were all a bit stunned. The doctor was very dissatisfied with the 3 people who suddenly squeezed in. "The patient has just been injected with a tranquilizer. She needs to rest." All unrelated people leave. He Yuan confirmed with Luo Nan that the human-faced arachnid really didn't exist. Then she indicated to Luo Nan and Zhang Yingying to leave first. She stayed behind to talk with the doctor. He Yuan walked out of the room after a few minutes. Luo Nan asked her, "What's going on?" "Symptoms of stress. It's hard to understand facts that surpass one's common sense. Refusal to come into contact with facts, severe rejection, or selective forgetfulness. The members of the society often encounter these kinds of things." Zhang Yingying shrugged. "I've long since suggested that the scope of common sense of ordinary people should be expanded in time to let them get used to accepting the existence of ability users. Humph humph. Mutants, those unscientific things, have been wreaking havoc for decades. Many people are still burying their heads in the sand." Luo Nan understood. So it turned out that Chen Xiaolin was unable to accept the sudden life and death battle between Shui Lei and the Black Wolf. Then there was the human-faced arachnid, and even the influence of Luo Nan's hypnosis technique. He Yuan suggested, "It's better to let your friend go home first. He'll only make the patient more nervous if he stays by her side." Zhang Yingying shot a glance at the still dejected Shui Lei. "This friend of yours is quite the material. His foundation is much better than yours. His adaptability is also quite strong. He should be the disciple of some martial arts master." Luo Nan approved of this conjecture. Shui Lei's reaction in the elevator was truly admirable. He even suspected that this big guy should have an intuitionistic response to the threat of the human-faced arachnid. However, Zhang Yingying was serious for less than 10 seconds before she began to run her mouth again. "This pair is clearly bragging. Why don't I introduce your friend to the society? You can go to the society and find your own kind. This kind of sunny and strong man is definitely more popular than some toothpick guy." Luo Nan glared at her and asked He Yuan about Chen Xiaolin's treatment situation. Then he walked towards Shuelei. Senior sister Chen doesn't have any problems. The doctor will take good care of her. We can't help much here anyway. Let's go home first. Shuelei shook his head as expected. I'll wait here. Luo Nan pressed down on his arm. Senior sister Chen will be sent to the hospital to receive follow-up treatment. She just needs to be quiet for a few days in this kind of situation. She also needs to be quiet for a bit. Let's go. It's getting late. My aunt's car is downstairs. She'll give you a ride. Shuelei clearly hung his head even lower when he said the word quiet. Luo Nan sighed and used a bit of strength to pull Shuelei up. Of course, Shuelei's mind was definitely shaken right now. Otherwise, how could he move? Luo Nan and Shuelei left side by side after greeting He Yuan, Zhang Yingying, and the others. They entered the elevator, and it just so happened to be the one where Shuelei and He Lang had fought. Shuelei stared blankly at the remnants of the collision marks on the inner walls of the elevator. He suddenly spoke. You guys aren't normal people, right? You're not either. It's fate. He didn't even have the qualifications to go on the road. But now, the situation had taken a miraculous turn. Luo Nan's consciousness focused on his left ear. There was a small and exquisite electronic device stuck to his ear canal. The hex ear. This little thing from the Wilderness Explorers Association had a miraculous function, but only those with a certain level of strength could activate it. Moreover, depending on one's strength, the level of the function would be different. Luo Nan needed to activate the heavily chained crow the moment he first came into contact with it. Only then was he able to realize the functions on the computer level. But after 30 hours of sleep, his body and mind had inexplicably adapted to the relevant abilities. At this moment, he only needed to slightly concentrate his mind, and he had already triggered the function of the hex ear and successfully connected to the psychic wave network. The interface of his retina opened, and he entered the homepage that seemed to be in the wilderness. Luo Nan wasn't unfamiliar with these kinds of changes. Back when he constructed the container format, he obtained the two abilities of Glutton King and Hypnotist. At first, he needed a high degree of concentration to be able to activate them. But not long after, the activation of these two abilities became natural. He didn't need to make any deliberate movements at all. They completely merged into his flesh and blood genes. Yes, it seemed that he had transformed his active skills into passive skills. He carried a halo with him, and he practically didn't need to consume any mana. Of course, concentration and energy were still indispensable in order to activate the deeper applications. This point was quite interesting, but it wasn't the main focus of Luo Nan's attention right now. He immediately received a notification when he logged on to the Society's homepage. Among them were messages from He Yuan and Zhang Yingying. There were also 2 emails from the Society's channels. Zhang Yingying's message looked like it was purely to chat with him. She stopped after discovering that he hadn't come online all this time. He Yuan told him to reply as soon as he got online. She reminded him to receive the briefing from the Society's channels. Inside was an evaluation of the operation at the Limestone Water Village pub on the night of the 28th. Luo Nan looked at the time. It was the middle of the night. How could he disturb someone's sweet dreams at this time? He wasn't in a hurry to contact He Yuan. Instead, he first checked the 2 emails from the Society. One of them was an official confirmation letter welcoming him into the professional society. The other was the briefing that He Yuan had brought up. He first opened the confirmation letter. There were stylized words inside. It was an expression of welcome for Luo Nan to join the Wilderness Explorer Society. It wasn't that he was henpecked or anything like that. It was just that his aunt's culinary skills had been the same for decades. He really didn't dare to compliment her. As for her two children, Moya had perfectly inherited her aunt's powerful talent and unparalleled culinary skills. Although she dared to cook, no one dared to eat it. There was also Mo Peng, Luo Nan's older cousin of the same age. It wasn't even 10 o'clock on a weekend morning. How was it possible for him to get up? The family ate breakfast together, and they didn't even bother to call him. It was probably because of Moya's extremely serious behavior of running away from home that the atmosphere at the dining table had been low for a long time. Uncle had seen this kind of situation many times, so he calmly ate his porridge and watched the news. Luo Nan wasn't in a good mood to talk, so he just kept his head down and ate. His appetite was there. Plain porridge and side dishes were certainly not enough to satisfy him. Uncle had considered this point when he cooked. Beef was paired with nutritional supplements, and he was guaranteed to eat until he was full. It was reasonable to say that this was a very normal breakfast for the Mo family, even though it had been a month since the incident. But Luo Nan felt a bit strange today. It was because his mental senses were spread out at all times. Even if he lowered his head, he could still see his aunt and uncle exchanging glances. It seemed to be a bit too frequent. Was it like this in the past? Or was his mental state too sensitive today? Seeing that he was more or less done eating, his aunt suddenly opened her mouth. "You, Luo Nan." "Aunt? Nothing going on today, right?" Nothing. Then let's go to Anhai together. Let's go see your grandfather." Luo Nan was clearly stunned. Then he responded with a resounding voice, "Okay." But he was a bit worried in the blink of an eye. Grandpa's condition isn't good again. "No, don't make blind guesses." Aunt tapped her chin. "Go. You clean up today." Luo Nan had no objections. Anhai Medical Center was a very famous sanatorium for mental illnesses in Xia City. It was located in the outskirts of Xia City, nearly 200 kilometers away from the main city district. It was approximately an hour's drive. Every time the family went on an outing, the front passenger seat was a golden treasure trove. No one wanted to receive his aunt's advice in the rear compartment. This time Luo Nan seized the seat before the sleepy Mo Ping could. He let out a sigh of relief when he got in the car. An hour's drive could be said to be long, but it could be said to be short. From Mo Peng's perspective, it was clearly very long. But Luo Nan had a lot of things to do to pass the time. He opened his portable notebook and looked at the interface of the flexible e-ink screen. Right now, the newly appeared visualization icon was still in the download state. Even if he was not interested in formatting theory, he still had some basic concepts. It refers to the structure of society, right? The collective composition and way of existence of human beings that affects individuals and changes nature. Luo Nan gave Mo Peng a thumbs up when he heard this. Though it wasn't that precise, it saved Luo Nan a lot of talking. Every country, tribe, region, and human collective must have their own specific social structure. Through this format, a steady stream of new social individuals would be produced. At the same time, nature would be transformed and new resources would be obtained to provide for the existence and operation of the society. Every social individual will be branded with the social format, and to a certain extent, will produce a counterforce to the social format. Students refer to learners. They can only accept the one-way indoctrination of the social format. They are not considered complete social individuals and are unable to be of any use. Employees refer to workers. They are the basic social individuals. They possess a certain ability to survive independently and maintain the basic operation of the social format. Technicians refer to promoters. Their advantage over employees lies in the fact that they can already optimize the social format and increase the efficiency of the operation of the format. Clergymen refer to the enlightened. They have a relatively complete understanding of the social format and begin to consciously utilize the power of the social format. Politicians refer to the innovators. They are the higher level enlightened. While utilizing the social format, they also carry out a conscious transformation of the format in an attempt to maximize the benefits. Mo Peng was worthy of being an excellent student with all 7 grades. He immediately spoke when he heard this. It sounds like a certain variant of the theory of hierarchy. Then the question is, what is the basis for dividing these classes in strata? Is there a unified standard? Luo Nan was silent when he heard this. He felt the gaze of his uncle from the side at this time. He raised his head and their gazes met. He revealed a bitter smile. The standard is me. I am the standard. Luo Yuandao picked up a rectangular block of wood in the independent ward of Anhai Sanatorium Center. He gently placed it on the wall that was half the height of a person in front of him. His fingers were trembling. The various diseases of his nervous system had pretty much destroyed his body. His originally tall stature had already collapsed. His entire body was just skin and bones. He was completely emaciated and deformed. He appeared to be incomparably weak. Luo Yuandao wasn't even 80 years old this year. In this day and age, he could be considered to have just entered old age. Some people hadn't even retired yet. However, he was already infinitely close to the end of his life. Chapter 88. Nurse Hong rushed over and helped Luo Nan straighten up the old man. She said over and over, "It's okay. It's okay. There's cushioning equipment to prevent falling." It was unknown whether these words were meant to comfort others or to comfort herself. Luo Nan carefully supported his grandfather's shoulder, not daring to touch his arm. He felt that the old man's arm was as thin as a hemp stick. He could break it with just a bit of force. But Luo Nan felt his chest sink a bit at this time. Luo Yuandao's hemp stick-like arm was pressing against his chest, pushing him away. Luo Nan remembered that his grandfather didn't like other people to have physical contact with him. He didn't dare to resist. He saw that Nurse Hong was already in place, so he took advantage of the situation and retreated, pulling apart the distance. Luo Yuandao laughed at this time. His vocal cords rubbed out a hoarse laugh, revealing a strange feeling of joy. "You may have destroyed my shrine, but you can't stay in my country for long." On the other side, Mo Peng, who was a bit slow in reacting, didn't make it in time to rescue the old man. He finally couldn't help but touch his forehead with his palm to alleviate the awkwardness. Luo Nan didn't care about his grandfather's strange train of thought. He saw that the loose-leaf notebook that had been clamped under his elbow had fallen onto the messy rubble of building blocks. He bent over to pick it up. His fingertips had just touched the cover when he heard a low roar, "My spoils of war." Luo Nan was stunned for a moment. A shadow swept over him. If he hadn't instinctively leaned back and Mo Peng pulled him, he would have been swept by Luo Yuandao's toes. Nurse Hong controlled the old man's balance in a flurry. Her mouth was constantly comforting him. "Old man, the spoils of war are still here. They're still here." She hurriedly gave Luo Nan and Mo Peng a meaningful glance. The two could only retreat and pull apart the distance when they saw this. "Bring it over. Give it to me." Luo Yuandao clearly looked a lot crazier than before, but his spirit was strangely vigorous. He was giving orders to people. Nurse Hong was adjusting the balance device. She couldn't free her hands for a time, so she indicated for Luo Nan to come forward. "It's fine. Old man, 1 yard at a time." In other words, he had already reached the stage of lacking logic. Luo Nan took a deep breath and suppressed the sourness in his heart. He walked forward to pick up the notebook. Luo Yuandao reached out to take it. The weight of the thick notebook was a bit too heavy for him. He trembled when he received it with one hand. Special Nurse Hong wanted to help but was rudely rejected. Although his arms were trembling and it looked like he would fall at any moment, he still flipped open the book and scanned through its contents. He knew that Luo Yuandao's current mental state was at a completely incomprehensible level. Chapter 89. No matter what the two youngsters thought, Luo Shuqing and her husband, the always rational Dr. Mo Haihang, were all excited about the health pod. After lunch, they brought the two youngsters to a side building of the sanatorium. Though Luo Nan and Mo Ping seemed to yield on the surface, they were planning in private. They would firmly oppose if they really had to fork out the money. They couldn't let the two elders be fooled. The so-called health pod was arranged quite like that. It was an individual room layout, and each room had specialized nursing staff. It didn't look like a nap, but more like a high-standard spa. In this day and age, as long as human resources were involved, a high price could be casually called out. Mo Pang's eyes lit up when he saw the sweet smile on the young nurse's face. He had long forgotten about the fooling problem. He was practically impatient to go in and experience it. Luo Shuqing had already booked 4 rooms in a row. They each chose one and went in. Luo Nan and Mo Pang were next to each other. Luo Nan's sensing range just so happened to cover the neighboring room. He heard Mo Pang ask shyly, "Do you want to take off your clothes?" Luo Nan was too lazy to pay attention to the other side. Right now in his room, the beautiful nurse was explaining the various benefits and basic operations of the health pod to him as part of the service. Luo Nan treated this as an advertisement and forgot about it. He was more interested in the health pod itself. Perhaps it was due to the imprint left behind by his special birth experiences, but Luo Nan had a special feeling towards health pods and health pods. It wasn't a feeling of liking or loathing. It was a kind of trance from deep memories. When a health pod was placed in front of him, it was like a hypnotist setting up a suggestion. It would push him into the deep and chaotic deep memory zone. The feeling was very complicated and chaotic, but he didn't hate it. Really? Luo Nan followed the nurse's instructions and entered the pod. The lid closed, and soft and soothing music sounded. It was still like the faint scent of flowers, faintly discernible. Everything proceeded according to the normal procedure. The lid made of special materials gradually turned from transparent to blurry, slowly cutting off the light from the outside world. Luo Nan closed his eyes, thinking that an afternoon nap like this wasn't bad. But he suddenly opened his eyes 7 or 8 seconds later. Something's wrong. The smell inside isn't right. Luo Nan reflexively went to press the open button inside the cabin. A muffled sound was heard at this time. Someone was lightly tapping the health pod's panel. The hatch cover turned from fuzzy to transparent once more. But Luo Nan reacted quickly, and the hatch cover flipped up. The person outside let out a cry, nearly having his arm pinched. Luo Nan suddenly sat up. On the mental plane, the heavily chained crow buzzed as if it wanted to come out. This was where his strongest power lay. However, at this moment, he came face to face with the person outside the cabin. The beautiful nurse had already disappeared. At this time, standing outside the cabin was a young doctor wearing a white coat and glasses. He looked quite elegant. If he spoke less, perhaps he would give people a better impression. Are kids nowadays all so impatient? The young doctor rotated his arms symbolically and coughed once. He adopted a very proper and serious attitude. Student Luo Nan. I am your attending doctor, Zhang Yuliang. Luo Nan stared coldly at him at first, but gradually, the image of this young doctor, who was pretending to be serious, overlapped with a certain person in his memories. It made Luo Nan a bit uncertain. It wasn't until the doctor finished his self-introduction and Luo Nan saw the nameplate on his chest that Luo Nan made a probing judgment. You are Bro Octopus. Cough, Zhang Yuliang. Yuliang as in Yuliang. The more the young doctor spoke, the more certain Luo Nan was. He let out a breath and relaxed, but he couldn't help but want to laugh. On the night of the 28th, it was this young aptitude user who was wearing a funny t-shirt with a cartoon octopus. While he was laughing and joking, he showed his exquisite ability to make hallucinogens and turn dozens of people in the room into stupid pigs with confused minds. And now, he was wearing a classic white coat and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. It was as if he was 10 years older in an instant. At first glance, he looked like a highly educated professional doctor. But the hip-hop flavor that was carved into his bones, along with the deliberate movement of his eyebrows, broke through the false shell in the blink of an eye. Luo Nan was most familiar with this side of him. Hey, hello bro octopus. Luo Nan was still thinking about Octopus's superb drug concoction methods. As a semi-professional, Luo Nan quite admired Octopus. In addition, an outstanding master of hallucinogens was working as a doctor in a mental sanatorium. It seemed quite fitting. I was supposed to have a leisurely weekend shift, but it was ruined by a certain someone. I don't feel good at all right now. Octopus ignored Luo Nan's good intentions. He flipped the flexible screen in his hand and found the relevant information. He spoke in cadence: schizophrenia. Severe mental illness. It occurs in 1% of the world's population. It is related to hereditary factors. People with a history of schizophrenia in their family will have a higher chance of contracting the illness by several times. The examinee's grandfather was a patient with severe schizophrenia. 4 years ago, the examinee himself was admitted to the hospital for treatment due to the dysfunction of his neurotransmitter system, causing his heart and lungs to fail. He was even given a notice of critical illness. The hospital's diagnosis at the time was that if the illness were to progress further, the possibility of the illness being hereditary and developing could not be ruled out. Improper electrical stimulation, drug stimulation, and sudden emotional stimulation could all lead to the illness. TSK, Mr. Psychic. I really didn't know that you were this kind of person. Luo Nan finally came to a realization at this time. Bro Octopus, my aunt and the others, Mrs. Luo Shuqing claimed that a certain someone was talking to himself several times this morning. Moreover, he said things like, "How will XX company be handled? I'll accompany you anytime," and other such offensive and cautionary words. Moreover, these kinds of words have no obvious connection to the environment of their daily lives. So, Mrs. Luo Shuqing suspects that this is the early symptoms of schizophrenia. She's also worried about a certain someone's psychological resistance, so she used this method to do an examination. It's a pity that our sanatorium's high-end health pod was used as an anesthetic. Luo Nan didn't know what to say for a time, but he soon came to a realization: my aunt and the others definitely wouldn't have been able to think of this convoluted idea. Octopus spread his hands. Isn't it the duty of a qualified doctor to solve the problems of patients and their families? Moreover, this health pod can perform brain imaging. It's very convenient. He looked at his watch. Your family's elders are about to arrive. Are you going to explain things to them, or are you going to obediently lie down and put on a show? Luo Nan laughed bitterly. He immediately lay down and closed his eyes. A smart choice. Oh right, I won't violate the taboo of the society and scan your body structure. I'll just use a fake to deal with it. I'll have to trouble Bro Octopus. The lid of the pod closed up once more, isolating the outside world's light. But in reality, Luo Nan was still able to sense the outside world's environment. He was able to see his aunt and uncle push open the door and walk in. From head to toe, their expressions were filled with seriousness, caution, and worry. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.